Hello and welcome to Cryptid by State, South Dakota. These states are just flying by. It is shocking to think that we only have 12 more left before we close the book on this series. Let's not think about that for now, since we have a new state to investigate. While it is true that it isn't typically thought about when thinking about states with a lot of cryptids, I can tell you that it has a lot to offer. There is even a fascinating one that may prove that skeptics shouldn't write off sightings so easily. So join me once again on our famed Cryptid Family Road Trip as we travel from our previous location of Oregon and head due east to South Dakota. A nomadic hunter-gatherer group of people first came to the area thousands of years ago, coming from the northern regions via the Bering Land Bridge. They were then followed by an early Native American tribe known as the Mound Builders around 500 AD. From that time, separate tribes established claims on the land, and this would include the Arikara, Cheyenne, Sioux, Iowa, and Algonquian. France first ventured to the area in 1679, when Daniel G. Duluth sent out a group of explorers to uncover what the land held. In the following years, many expeditions began for various reasons, including fur trade and the hunt for a water route to the Pacific Ocean. In 1762, Spain gained control of the area for a while and spent a lot of time exploring and establishing favorable trade relations with the local tribes. Eventually, the land was returned to French control, and much of the land from Louisiana to most of the central United States was included in the Louisiana Territory. In 1803, the United States purchased the land from France with the Louisiana Purchase, and it was explored by the famed Lewis and Clark expedition. Fur trapping was a big industry here, and eventually more and more settlers began establishing homes. This influx of people caused a strain of relations with the Yankton Sioux tribe. However, in 1858, the Yankton Treaty was signed where the tribe ceded most of the area now known as South Dakota, and it also established a 430,000-acre reservation set aside for the tribe. In 1861, the U.S. government established the Dakota Territory, which included both North and South Dakota, and parts of Montana and Wyoming. Interestingly, a rivalry emerged between the Dakotas, where the more populated South wanted to be separated from the North due to them seeing the people as disreputable. In 1883, the people drafted their own constitution and requested to be their own state. This caused some discomfort within the government, and it is stated that when it came time to sign the papers making North and South Dakota separate states, something odd happened. On November 2, 1889, then-President Benjamin Harrison asked his secretary to shuffle the papers so he couldn't determine which one he was signing first, and to this day the actual order is unrecorded. Although officially North Dakota is the 39th state, whereas South Dakota is the 40th. South Dakota's flag is fairly simple in design, but it has a unique history. What we see is a sky blue background with the state seal in the center. Surrounding this is the name of the state and the nickname of the Mount Rushmore state. Moving in, we find golden colored triangles surrounding the seal, which represents rays of the sun. Pausing for a moment, the original flag from 1909 looked a bit differently. Obviously the state seal is missing, but the sun is quite prominent, and the nickname was originally the Sunshine State. In 1963, the seal was added over the sun, and in 1992, the nickname was changed to the current design. The seal shows many symbolisms of commerce, industry, and natural beauty. On the left is a smelting furnace representing mining, on the right is a farmer tilling the soil with his plow, and above them is a field of corn with a herd of cattle. Between all of these is a depiction of a steamboat making its way down the river. All of these symbols are surrounded by mountains and fields. Above this is the state motto of "Under God the people rule." Finally, in a ring around this, we have the name of the state, the indication it is an image of the Great Seal, and the date of 1889, for when it became a state. Okay, so let's get to those elusive cryptids. This state has cryptids living in all different areas, but for once, let's not start with the water, but rather stay on land for a change of pace. Starting off with a real oddity, we have a single report from 1934 about a dinosaur sighting. Yes, an actual dinosaur. Near Lake Campbell, a farmer was driving his tractor down the road when he claimed to have encountered a large dinosaur walking on all fours. From shock and in an attempt to avoid hitting the creature, the farmer swerved and in doing so caused the tractor to get stuck in a ditch. The man ran to get help and to relay the story. When he and his newly amassed group returned to the spot, the creature was gone. However, they did manage to find enormous footprints in the mud that indicated the creature was in fact real and that it was headed for the lake. Oddly enough, prior to this encounter, there had been various reports of livestock randomly missing, and some assumed this creature may have been the culprit. What I find interesting is that the beast was headed for a lake, so I have to wonder if it wasn't naturally aquatic. The next one is rather an interesting story, with a wild explanation. For years, the Sioux tribe known as the South Dakota told legends of a mysterious beast known as the Thunder Horse. According to lore, this creature was seen from time to time around the camps, but it was mostly believed to be living in the sky. It was told that when it wanted to hunt, it would leap from the sky and chase down bison. While it would give chase, it brought with it violent thunderstorms and rain. The Thunder Horse would chase the bison down and crush them under its massive hooves. Eventually the creature would die, and its bones would be found lying on the ground. Many hunting parties were said to recover these bones and bring them back to their camps. Originally, this was thought to be a legend to explain lightning storms, but it became more than that. When paleontologist Othniel March heard the stories, he visited the tribes in 1875. While there, he was presented with a massive jawbone from an unknown animal, and it had molars nearly 3 inches wide. Confused by this, he asked where the bones were found, and was told that they were in a nearby canyon. Marsh ventured out, and to his amazement, actually found the full remains. When assembled, the creature would have stood 8 feet tall at its shoulder, was 16 feet long, and had a Y-shaped horn coming from its head. It turned out that this creature was a well-known animal called the Megacerops, and it had gone extinct over 33 million years ago. Now, this begs the question, did the tribe actually encounter these creatures at one time, or did they find the fossils and create a story around what they thought it was? No one is sure, but I'll let it up to you to decide. Moving on, we have a very brief story from Clay County, and it is about little people, who we don't normally talk about very often in this series. For years, the local tribes have told tales about a group of small people known as Little Devils that live in the earth under Spirit Mound. These beings are said to stand only 18 inches tall, they hate humans, and are quite willing and capable of defending their land. In one story, a party of 100 warriors descended on the mound to try to get rid of these beings. By the end of the battle, all the warriors were killed, and very few of the Little Devils were harmed. Interestingly, Lewis and Clark heard about the legend and decided to check out the mound for themselves. Clark wrote that when they encountered the feature, its base was that of a parallelogram shape, which he thought could be viewed as man-made, but he felt it was natural. While there, the group didn't encounter any of the residents, but he did take note that it did have multiple deep holes burrowed into the mound that would accommodate a being that was 18 inches tall. To this day, the mound still exists, but there haven't been any word of Little Devils being seen. As much as I liked being on dry land for a while, it is time that we get our diving gear on for our next few cryptids. Before getting into this, I will mention that a semi-aquatic being known as Miniwashitu is said to be found here. Although this one-eyed bipedal bison-like being with chupacabra-like spikes running down its back is more famous in North Dakota. So, due to this, I will refrain from going into those stories until we venture to that state. In Cottington County, there is a body of water known as Lake Kempeska, and it is said to be home of the state's own version of Nessie. Sightings are scarce, but has been reported since 1886 until recently. Famously, in 1888, a group of people who were known to be reputable were enjoying a picnic near the shore of the glacial lake. Without warning, an enormous serpent burst from the water in front of them. It was described as having scaly skin, a huge crested head, was lizard-like in appearance, massive in size, and had an extremely large tail that resembled a fluke. While they watched in terror, it opened its mouth wide, exposing several rows of sharp teeth, and let out a deafening deep sound akin to laughter. With this, the group ran away, leaving all their possessions behind. What the group didn't know was just 2 years prior, the beast was seen for the first time. A couple out on their boat was sailing along when their craft was rocked by something massive. As they peered into the water, they saw the shadow of a giant fluke-tailed being gliding under the water's surface. Not to be outdone, but directly north of this body of water is Roy Lake and Pickerel Lake. Both of these are said to have sightings of a massive eel-like being. For at least 80 years, there have been stories about a giant eel-like being with a serpent-like head, long dorsal fin, and the body length of a canoe. Last year, 2 jet skiers were out in the water when they saw the same creature swimming by. Apparently, as they watched, it raised its head above the water's surface for a few moments before returning to the depths. Leaving the water, we looked to the sky for 2 stories about beings that can fly. In 2013, a woman was driving at night on her way to her friend's house. While traveling, there wasn't any other traffic and everything was going as planned. As she rounded a turn, the car's headlights illuminated a large black-colored creature hunched over in her lane. She said that it appeared to be either looking at something, or, worse yet, eating something. Not knowing what the creature was and not wanting to hurt it, she started to slow down. Suddenly, it stood up, opening a large set of wings that she said unfurled like a cape. Shockingly, rather than flying away, it lunged towards her car, hitting the windshield. She sped off and finally made it to her friend's house. While there, she told him the story and begged him to go back with her to make sure the creature wasn't lying on the road hurt. He relented, and as they passed by her car to get to his truck, they noticed her windshield was undamaged, but it was covered in a gray, slimy-looking substance that she likened to the residue of a moth. When they returned to the spot where she had seen the creature, nothing was found. To this day, she doesn't know if she encountered a Mothman or something else. On June 9, 2014, 2 friends were just driving around one night on a Sioux reservation when they encountered something that would haunt them for years. It was on this night at 2 p.m. that the pair were driving around for something to do when they decided to stop at a friend's house who was having a party outside. They stayed for a short period of time before deciding to head home. The party they left was at the end of a street, and there weren't many houses on the lane. While driving, they saw a creature the size of a large dog kneeling by the side of the road. As they neared, the being turned its head to look at them and stood up like a human does. The creature hit the right side of the car as they passed, and it even tried to reach its hand into the window. It was described as looking like a cross between a man and a bird. It had 8-inch long fingers and had white-colored feathers covering its body. Before hitting the gas, they saw the creature extend its arms out and shake its feathers. They said this movement made the sound of porcupine quills rubbing together. As they sped away, it let out a near-piercing scream that was incredibly loud. Once they returned home, they stayed in the car for the rest of the night, for fear of being exposed to the beast that they just saw. As usual, I couldn't get to every cryptid found in this state, so here are our honorable mentions section. South Dakota has a fairly decent amount of Bigfoot sightings, especially around Mount Rushmore. One of note is the famous Tuckahee, which has been encountered for quite a few years. What makes this unique is while some reports state it has been seen dragging a dead animal through a field, others paint it a little more dapper, with it apparently enjoying wearing a top hat. Hey, who's to say cryptids can't be fashionable? Try as I might, I was unable to uncover any dogman sightings. This doesn't mean that they don't exist here, since many of the surrounding states have encounters of the creature, so it makes sense that they would venture here as well. With that said, I didn't find anything, so either I missed them, or those tales are kept quiet. It shouldn't come as a shock that there have been quite a few Thunderbird sightings in the area. There have been a few sightings of a being that can only be described as a skinwalker. While not a cryptid in the least, I would like to briefly mention that the Badlands National Park does have sightings of a banshee-like being around Watchdog Butte. This is something we'll be revisiting in our Haunted by State series that will eventually follow this one. In ending this, I hope you enjoyed it, and that I made South Dakota proud. I really enjoyed the Thunder Horse story, and also, who doesn't love a good story about a Bigfoot wearing a top hat? As always, remember to keep voting for which state you would like to see next in our series. While I'm not as active in the comments section as of late, I do still read all of them. I will note that as of late, I had a change of work and I'm on the graveyard shift. Apparently we work every other weekend, so my time has been really limited. So far, as I can see, I have the weekends off that begin the first of the month, so our Cryptid by State series should continue to be regularly uploaded. After that, everything is up in the air. Either I will be devoted to Cryptid by State and Cryptid by Region, or I'll make something different in place of region from time to time. Who knows? Either way, I thought I'd let you know, and I hope you all understand the change. If you haven't yet done so, do please consider subscribing to my channel for more content like this. Also, it would be greatly appreciated if you share my videos with someone you know who may enjoy this type of genre. With that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.